SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. Sir has completed PhD on watershed management and soil erosion modeling in 2006 from University of Pune. Then later on, he pursued his LLB degree from University of Pune in 2013. Dr. Devre sir has experience as a junior field assistant at School of Environmental Science, SPPU Pune. Sir as chairperson the Board of Studies in Geography at SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. He has also the member of Board of Studies in Geography at Shivaji University, Kolhapur, Dr. Homi Baba State University, Mumbai, Maharaja Sayajirao Gaikwad University, Baroda, and Model College, Thakurli, Mumbai. Then Dr. Devre sir has visited at Florida and Moscow for their academic and research purposes in 2014 and 2015. Then sir has a vice president of the Deccan Geographical Society 2016 onwards and the life member of IIG, ISRS and NAGI. Then Dr. Devri sir has organized state level, then national level, then international level seminar, workshop and conferences. Major minor project are also done by the sir funded by the UGC. Four students have completed the PhD and six students have completed the MPhil under the guidance of Dr. Devre sir, and four students are working for the PhD at present status. Sir has published one book and 24 research articles in reputed various journal. Then I also welcome to the Dr. Datar Madam, Principal SP College, Dr. Gaikwad Sir, Professor and Head, Department of Geography, SP College, Dr. Devni Sir, coordinator of this PhD coursework, and Joint Coordinator Dr. Dhole Sir, and welcome to all participants. So I request to Dr. Devre Sir to start today's session. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good man.
Thank you so much, Purchase sir, for such a nice
Thank
introduction.
you. Thank you, sir.
In the beginning only, I thank Professor Manoj Devre for inviting me for this lecture and organizers, Davle sir and all the team of the Department of Geography, the principal of the college, and also all the participants who are here for this PhD coursework program. So you must be enjoying it since, I mean, 2 weeks or maybe more than that. The research methodology uh, coursework, uh, though it is just made mandatory for the PhD coursework as per UGC norms or UGC guideline. Basically, I'm going to talk today on the topic that is good research practices. Okay, so I will just share my presentation. Okay, is it visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So good academic research practices basically what what is good and what are academic research practices. Little bit a history about the research in universities. I will just brief. Initially, when I or our generation people were studying, there were hardly few people in the colleges or the institutions who were really interested to do the research, and they were doing or they were involved in the research. There were people who got even as per our designation as a professor during those times, even they are having not the PhD degree because of their contribution in the research. So research basically is a matter of interest of a person. There onwards, the things becomes somewhere mandatory or necessary condition for for the assessing criteria, and it become when it has gone to the mass, unfortunately somewhere it has an impact on the deterioration of the quality, and the practices university wise or the colleges wise or research center wise, there quite much variation that in higher educations, particularly in India, that has happened. So then to control this, the body, that is University Grant Commission, so they have issued guidelines at various times to make either to make the uniformity or to assess the process of the research whatever is going in the country. And according to those guidelines, then whatever norms are given by the UGC, it has become mandatory for the universities or higher education institutions to adopt those norms. Now, those are, I don't think those are the difficult things that why people are, I mean, take tension or worry about that thing, that what is the good. Basically, as per my personal interest, the research is a matter of enjoyment. One must enjoy the research. The thing is, I'm not just talking about the PhD degree, but in general, you must have gone through the previous lectures also, that topic selection, and then how to choose a topic, and what are the definitions of the research. So I will not go in that, but basically the research is to get the things or to know about the unknown facts. In fact, that is there, that exists, but to understand something more and to add something to the knowledge which is existing. That is what the research is. And to add in the knowledge, one has to study a little more, and it creates, of course, an interest in the person. Okay, so it is a continuous process that way. All of you are teachers or working somewhere, maybe working some colleges or maybe institutions. So it's like that teacher has to be always a student and has to read continuously and to get the things. The same thing, the researcher, even if, see, from while doing his own research or getting some degree, when he become a supervisor or guide, or he has to supervise somebody, or he has to take certain research projects, the same thing, he has to upgrade that kind of knowledge as a student or as a researcher. So the word researcher, basically, here in good academic research, that is what the research is expected, and that is the person is called as a researcher. And as I already told, that it should give you the enjoyment while doing the research, then only you will have interest in the research. Okay, now, so what are good academic research practices, basically? So first thing is, let us discuss. So what guidelines I was talking about. So you must have gone about various terminologies or terms also. The most importantly nowadays in the research, the term used, that is the ethics of research or research integrity. So there are certain values which needs to be followed while doing the research. And then though if those values of the research integrity are followed, then that is what the good academic research is. And this the presentations is on the practices, because these practices are not only concerned with the researcher, but the entire system that is involved in the research need to understand or need to consider these things for a good research. This is basically guideline issued by the university, based on the guideline issued by the University Grant Commission. So I'll give you the reference or show you those guidelines also at the end. And that is what the basis of my presentation today, whatever things are given in that. So today we are going to discuss first the values underlying research integrity, and then second is framework for good research, academic research practices, what good research practices we need to do. Now, what is integrity of the research? So integrity of research enterprise rests on honesty and trust. These are the definitions or the things given by the researchers. And according to the US National Institutes, the research integrity includes, first is the use of honest and verifiable methods in proposing, performing, and evaluating research. So research has to be, or the methods should be verifiable and honest. So the honest use of these methods is the important aspect as far as integrity is concerned. Then the reporting research results with particular attention to adhere to rules, regulations, and guidelines. Whatever guidelines I was telling about, those which are issued by the University Grant Commissions from time to time to keep the quality research in the institutions. But this research
सर
basically.
सर सॉरी फॉर इंटरप्ट नेक्स्ट होत नाही सर हां येस आत्ताची झाली स्लाइड नेक्स्ट होत नव्हती
ओके ओके ओके
हां
आता होती है ना?
येस सर येस ओके
Okay, okay, fine. So then to make this research, when we have to stand somewhere, see, if I'm working in certain institution, I have to stand at a national level, that then there has to be a certain quality of research, or the kind of research need to be done. The same way, at national level, whatever research we are doing has to be stand somewhere at international level. And so the guidelines and norms are defined even at the international level as far as the research is concerned. So the research reporting research result with the the attention to adhere these rules or regulations or guidelines is again an important aspect of this integrity. And then following commonly accepted professional codes or norms. So these are the part of basically what we again use the word as ethics also. So research is by and large a self-regulatory and self-policing process wherein researchers conduct and present their research without falsification and fabrication, giving credit to other scholars for their ideas when and where such credit is done. So you must have heard even the word of plagiarism, then falsification, misinterpretation. In detail, we'll come little on that in detail. But to avoid those things is what the integrity towards the research or integrity about the research. Okay. And next is, then what are those values basically? So the Office of Research Integrity must promote the following rules here, following values in the conduct and management of research. Here, this Office of Research Integrity basically maybe an institution, maybe a university, maybe institution like University Grant Commission, or those who are there in the research. Okay, so first is the ethics. So the research is conducted in an ethical manner, ensuring dignity, rights, safety, and privacy within the research ecosystem. So there has to be a dignity amongst the researcher, then rights. The rights has to be given to the or to be maintained. Then safety and privacy within that ecosystem is nothing but the ethics. Then next is rigor. Rigor is rigorous and careful analysis, basically it stands for. So research ensures high quality design, reliable data, then appropriate use of methods, and rigorous and careful analysis and transparent reporting and interpretation of the result. So here research, most important aspect is about the consistency. So once you have started doing some kind of research, there has to be a consistency in your work. Each and every day you should do something on your topic, then only you will be there involved in the topic, and the things will be keep on proceeding. Because many times if you keep the things aside, and after 8 days or maybe 1 month, if you see that where I was and what I was doing, so it will kind of to remember those things and again to organize those things, it takes quite longer time. So there has to be a consistency, and if the things are done rigorously up until you get the results, that is a fine, and that is the important value as far as research is concerned. And then relevance in the endure expanding the knowledge base and understanding the environment and ecosystem. So whatever research we are doing has relevance with this in case of the expanding the knowledge base and understanding the environment ecosystem. So it should have the short and long term goals of the science and society. Then transparency. Transparency is basically developing, undertaking, reviewing, reporting, and communicating research in a fair, comprehensive, and unbiased fashion is nothing but the transparency. So one has to be very honest in doing, in developing, undertaking, reviewing, and reporting the research, which is in a fair manner, a comprehensive, and in unbiased fashion. So it should be open, it should cover all aspects, and then we can call it as a transparent research. So that has to be maintained. Then respect. So here the respect to whom? So the process of research is aligned with the norms and traditions of society. So one has to respect these traditions and norms, its cultural heritage, and even with the respect to the colleagues, the research participants, and the environment. So the researcher has to respect each other, whatever work if somebody is doing. So while discussing the things, many times the debate happens, and that debate goes somewhere towards the personal things instead of respecting the work what the person is doing. So that is again a matter of values, or these are the important values in research integrity. And then impartiality. So objectivity and lack of bias are the core principles of research. So one has to be very objective, focused thing, where there should be a lack of bias. The biases can be for anything, maybe the personal biases, maybe regional biases, maybe somebody has number biases, somebody feels some number is lucky whereas the other is unlucky, whatever kind of biases may come in that. Even there are, I mean, as far as geography is concerned, we have various branches of specialization and people feel themselves expert in such particular kind of the branch, and then this is the only where we are doing research, whereas the others are like that. So those are also kind of biases, which are harmful as far as the research integrity is concerned, and that is against the values of the research integrity. So there should not be bias for anything or any factor, we can say. So researchers should avoid conflicts of interest in setting research priorities. So while considering the priorities, this conflict of interest should be avoided. Then research collaboration, research questions, and these are the matters that come in the process of research. So one has to be very impartial. So these are the values. And then next value is the independence. So research functions must be insulted from both the appearance and reality of undue influence. So here, to promote the objectivity, when we talk about the objectivity in the research, so researchers should be allowed independence in the design, conduct, analysis, and interpretation. Many times what happens, there are certain methodologies which are, well developed by the people, but those are under certain circumstances or the particular conditions those methodologies are developed. And if somebody has to work research on some other aspects with different circumstances in that area or maybe in that topic, so he may develop his own design. So he may modify the methodologies, he may develop his own design, and that has to be appreciated. Many times it doesn't happen. So the independence basically is a person, if he's involved in a question, in a problem, and if you want to find out the answer of that question while designing a research, he must be allowed to do it independently with free mind. Then only the research can be done properly. So that is what about the independence, value of independence. And the next is accountability. This always has to be there in every professional life, we can say, or the work, whatever we do. So the researcher is accountable to the society, the aspect on which he's working. So he has to take care of the things that research will again come it on the when we'll study the translation or the technology transfer on the things. So that is what the accountability is. So one must follow the rules or regulations, one must follow the procedures, and those are the values. That is what the accountability is whenever the professional standards are concerned. Okay, so integrity in the research implies that these values permeate every aspect and are upheld by involved in the research enterprise. So if these values are involved, so these are what about the values important in the research integrity. Okay, so these are what basically, this is what we can say at an international level, considering all these aspects, what way a good research process can be done. So what can be the framework? Even I don't know what lectures you had before, but you must have gone about the research design, the conduct of research, and research dissemination. But I'm just focusing on the good or what expected things are there as per the norms. So there are basically three aspects or three stages of the research. The first is the research design, then conduct of research, and research dissemination. Okay, so how to go for that? So what is research design? So again, research design, where the other aspects comes are the research planning. One has to plan his research, then research questions and documentation, literature review, then data research, research methods, and analytical approach. So these are the aspects of the research design. Okay, so then we'll see one by one. So when we talk about the research planning, I don't know how many of you are at this stage, because this is, since your coursework is going on, you must be planning or must have planned about your research. So what is that planning basically? So research planning, the responsible conduct of research basically begins at the planning stage. So one has to be very, and this is very critical starting point. So the choice of research question and rationale is a critical starting point. So one has to be very cautious about this planning while taking the research question. Okay. So again, there are methods how to go to research question and all, but that is what that the planning covers. Now, what are the things one need to consider while planning the research? Okay. So the first is describe the research objective. So when you are working on certain aspect, or we call it as a topic, if you want to work on that, so on that topic, then what should be the objectives and what are the rationale for that? So the objectives and rationale need to be described. Then develop a project plan with milestone, roles and responsibilities. So this is the important aspect, because we have to consider the milestones, because here again this is that way a time bound project. So minimum period, whatever your 2 years or 3 years plus maximum this much if you have to go. So what way will you plan that, and what are the roles you have to play, and what are your responsibilities? Because there are the things, many things which are where about which we are dependent to collect the data, to get the things, to plan it accordingly. So one has to develop a project plan for that. Okay, so this is the just the checklist. So have you done it for the planning of your research? So then next, ensure the viability of this study in view of resources, expertise, facilities and funding. Because again, this is another thing. At the ground realities, if I want to work on certain topic, or what we can say certain question, research question, so do I get the resources, expertise in that case? So I guess that is the important. I'm not talking this resources expertise is not in terms of the guide or supervisor. That is whatever aspects we are working on, that kind of expertises, are they available? Or I mean, what is the what we can say the viability in this study one has to consider. And then facilities. Somebody want to work on some experimental exercises, so you should have that kind of laboratory, then that kind of equipment, then only he can work on that. And then next is about the funding. Again, the things has to be procured from some other agencies, or to get, or if a manpower is involved, maybe in the field work or getting data or kind of thing, then one has to think on the funding also. So how much funding can I spend on this? So that way, of course, there are certain agencies from which we can get the funding, but if one has to do at his own, what way it can be managed? So that needs to be considered while planning the research. Then key abreast with the relevant regulatory, ethical, organizational, and other guidelines. So one has to follow these, regulatory guidelines are there. Then ethical practices, organizational guidelines are there. So that way one need to follow those guidelines. Then seek requisite licenses, approvals, and permissions in advance. So in case of geography, again, if somebody wants to use a GIS software, say for example, so do we got license copy of that software? Can we procure those license copies to work on those software somewhere? Or if we need any other kind of licenses to work on, is it available with us? Even there are certain approvals and permissions we need to get from various agencies as far as data is concerned. There may be, certain information are there, so we need to get permissions for that. So even if you talk about say Survey of India topo sheets, if those are from the restricted areas, then it is that way is a lengthy process that one has to follow that procedure and to get the permission to procure those topo sheets. So these things one has to think while planning the research. So not only to decide a topic, but while deciding a topic at an initial stage, one has to think about the entire procedure of the research, or the process of the research through which he has to go, and then only a good practice, it is possible to follow a good practice as far as research is concerned. Then next is about the research question and documentation. Okay, so first was the planning, then second, and these were the checklists for the planning. The second is research questions and documentation. Now, from here again, the research starts with the activity starts with the research question, and the good research question should be then clear how to define, or how to frame a question. So it should be a clear with sufficient specificity so that it is readily understood. Then it should be focused. So to ensure feasibility given the available resources and time frame, so is it possible to work in that time frame? So one has to be focused. What we can say, the practical approach has to be there. Then concise, it should be brief but comprehensive. So it must elaborate the things but has to be brief. And then this is the nuanced with a research design that matches the complexity of the problem being addressed. So one has to see about this complexity of the problem which we have to address, or the researcher has to address. And then this question should be a logical. So available evidence supports the research claims. So one has to ensure that whether those available evidence support that research claim or not. Okay, so this is the way the research questions can be formulated. And then the sound formulation of this research question, then it requires what? So first is the consultation with the experts. So if I got at a broader perspective, if I want to work on some topic or some aspect, so I have to consult the expert. Considering while planning that this is what the time frame is, this is what the funding, and this is the way that much time per day I can spend on this. So what way the question be framed, or how the planning can be made. So then an understanding of relevant theories and available data and records. So one has to first explore about the theories and available data on that aspect or on that topic which is available. Okay, so to understand the relevant theories related to that question, and so that is important aspect. And then to an understanding of the relevant literature. This is most important aspect, that before finalizing or before finalizing a research question, one has to go through a literature, and while exploring the literature, the relevant literature be relevant in the sense relevant to the topic which is focused more on that particular thing, needs to be identified. And after understanding that literature, it gives a researcher a kind of confidence to do a research, that yes, this is the work which is done by various people in these areas, these are their opinion, these are their findings, and the way the research can it can give you the researcher the confidence. Okay, and then for that, detailed journaling, record keeping, and documentation are an integral part of the research process. So detailed journaling is basically when we see a research paper or research article, there are references given by a researcher. If one paper which is useful for my research, or I find it as relevant, so there are references given by that researcher. So I have to go to those references. Those are basically called as a back references, and that way one can go up to the fact, or up to more on that topic. So that is what the journaling. And with that, then one will understand that what kind of journals are more they're working on that field. Then record keeping, this is again an important thing, that while going through a journal, or while reading a paper, one need to make a note, or the points, we can say, take an abstract out of that. So that record keeping is important, that this is the way. And by that we can even get the timely development in the field. And then the documentation. So documentation regarding our research, what we can say, it is an important part in the research process. Okay, the next is, the third one is about the literature review. So literature review, again, you must have had a lecture on this, how to do it and what are the methods to do. My point here is just in the good academic research, this is a important step which involve the framing research question in terms of the existing research. Okay, so basically describing the research questions and locating them properly in the existing literature are important aspects of research planning. So describing research questions and locating them properly in the existing literature. So these are the important aspects in research planning, because one has to first describe the questions and locate them in the existing literature. So there are certain essential steps. One is the framing research questions in terms of the existing literature. So whatever work people has done based on that, what can be a research question. So to frame that question based on the literature review. Then consulting relevant database and text for the search. So this is again another thing in literature review, that relevant databases and text needs to be searched, because these are not only for for the textual or the past work related things, but to get that kind of database, whether it is available, what in what form it is there. So that kind of databases and text needs to be consult. And then listing relevant keywords and phrases as well as known key references. So the after getting many reviews, one can go to certain key references. Key references are basically from the broader to a specific topic when a researcher is moving. So there are certain references which has done a lot of work related to that, covering many aspects of the thing, are called as a key references. So one must uh, come up to those key references. Yes, this is the way the things can be done, and can do accordingly, and then can list the keywords what are used by the persons, okay, or by the researcher, and then ensuring search results are easily retrieval and traceable. This is most important thing, again, because when the things has to be nowadays has to be published or upload online, then those results should be retrieval and traceable. Then revising the original research question if necessary. So even if this is a continuous process until that question is finalized, if we got certain relevant literature and find that we need to make certain kind of changes in the question, that can be done. So before incorporating search results in the review, it is essential to evaluate each reference for accuracy, authority, objectivity, currency, and coverage. These are again another aspects, or what we can say, the people may call it as a limitations in getting the references. So first is not about the accuracy, that we can find how accurate it is, because at what site it is, or from which journal it is, or what things are there. So that is what the one can get accuracy of it. Whereas the authority also uh, can be known. Then objectivity of that work, and then currency and coverage. So this currency is basically about how to get that, is it easily to get that reference or not. These are the aspects one need to cover. So these are the things about the literature review. So literature review is please make me one thing clear, that whenever we get the research thesis for the assessment, many times what people understand, that they just give 4 or 5 words, this is the fellow from in this article he has done this much work, and if it is related to his work, that is just given as a literature review. Literature review is not only concerned with what how many people worked on that topic, or not only up to that much, but it helps us to get either the methods utilized by the person. We may get proper data from that literature. So that is also a review process by which we can get, even we get their opinion. So we may get difference of opinion even on the same topic. Then we can put those, that this fellow says like that, whereas the other researcher says, and what I feel. So that way it needs to be discussed in the in the research. So that makes that gives again it a value. So then how to get the scientific literature review? So there is a checklist again. Is the information is reliable? What I just told you about the reliability. Is it is error free? Is the information is factual? Then is the information is verifiable? Can we verify whatever is given by that person? Because there are nowadays, there are only the information, they are floating like anything. One can get that information, but nobody cares about whether that is true or not, or can we verify that. So then what are the professional credentials of the authors who has written that thing? Because if you just search on the Google giving something, you will get n numbers of searches, and those searches, or whatever a person using that tab or the keyword, whatever he dumped, I will sorry, you will use the word as dumped in that the thing will come in the Google search. But one has to find these things, that whether it is reliable, factual. So that thing only we can use, or researcher can use for his research. So does the author have the subject matter expertise on the topic? So who has written that? Is he expertise in that topic? Then is the information is relevant? is a clear distinction made between the facts and opinions. Many times people, just get confused about the facts and opinion. So anything, if what I'm talking maybe my opinion, may not be the facts. So one need to understand, because facts need a data, evidences. So on that basis, the facts can be elaborated. So whether those are facts or opinion, one must consider. Then, is the information biased? If it is given by somebody and he is having some kind of bias, that information may be biased. So the next is the information is current? So how old that information is? So one must need to consider the recent or current information. Then does the information meet current needs? Is it whatever information we are getting, does it meet the current needs? Or does the information provide in-depth coverage? So what kind of information it is? Many times, even in geography, I can give you an example. People write something, on the working in some area. There normally they give one chapter that is either the geographic personality of the area, geographic profile of the area, or whatever the study area. And that study area focuses on the relief of that area, climate of that area, soil, and whatever geographic things are there. So while giving that, in the climatology many times, or the climate of that area, those whatever 1 or 2 year or average values they get, that is used from socio-economic aspect. So now climate, those weather data or those climate averages you can get even India Meteorological Department site, even Maharashtra Agricultural Department is having those sites, and at Tehsil websites also that data can be obtained. So if it is from the India Meteorological Department or proper thing, so first it has to be relevant. Second thing, the information should be from the proper authorized person, and it should have in-depth coverage. Because if we got some, again the question after getting that information, the another point is why I'm talking that this is a chapter many a times which is not correlated with the other aspects. So the problem may be something else, where there is nothing discussed on this geography, whatever problem the person has done. So if you're working on the climatic variation or whatever averages, what relation it has, why do you want to study that? And so those things one need to consider, and that is what the in-depth coverage is. So that way one should go with the scientific literature review, and one need to understand these things. Again, I am telling, this is not only for searching the journals or the books or periodicals. It is about the reports, it is about the data or the other information, whatever we get from the things. Okay, so you got that good literature. So that is what they expected in good, what we can say, the academic research. Okay, so then next is sorry. My screen is visible, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the next is about yeah, we covered this research questions and documentation, literature review. So next is about the data, research method, and analytical approach. So what is good in that, and what is expected in that kind of thing? So first is, once the research question have been clarified and located within the existing literature, evidences must be obtained to support the research claims, and that typically presented through the data. Okay, so while framing a research problem, once the objectives are defined, so after or to get the data, to prove those objectives, after following a method, one need to get a data. So that evidence is basically presented through the data. Okay, then choosing the appropriate research method again is a crucial decision. So which method is appropriate for what kind of research? And then these methods again vary depending upon the type of research questions. So the sources and nature of data and the purpose of research. So not necessarily that one researcher used this method that the other must follow. So it varies based on the sources and nature of the data, because each method needs a particular type of data in particular format. If one get that kind of data, then fine, that method can be used even in this research. But if the data is in some another form, that many times the researcher has to decide which method he needs to follow or he has to follow. Again, I can give example. Say for example, if I work basically on the soil erosion modeling. Okay, so soil erosion modeling can be done by various methods. There are certain empirical models, there are process based model, or there are what we can say certain decision making things made by using various software. So a researcher, if his focus is on the soil erosion, so which method he needs to follow? It depends on what data can he get. Whether he want to work, of course it is better to work on a natural unit, maybe a watershed, a river basin. So that he has to first decide, and then which method will he follow. So again, in empirical method, there is a well-known method, that is universal soil loss equation, that is then revised and modified. So many changes are taken in that equation. If one has to use that method, so does the person having or can procure that kind of data to use that method? Now, this is again another thing, that while searching the literature or while searching the models, you will get again various other techniques used by the people. So even if that data is not available, so another data or whatever data is available can be utilized to get kind of result. So what I can again give you one example in this. So there is in the soil erosion, one aspect is the rainfall erosivity. That is nothing but the ability of rain to cause an erosion, and it's very simple. It depends on the raindrop size and its intensity, the at what intensity it will fall. So practically, experiments are made in the fields to find out that what size drop at what intensity it falls will able to erode how much amount of the soil. Now, while at a larger level, then people developed a model, because a researcher, again, the funding matters, the other things matter. So it's difficult to work it on the field level. So then, if he can use a rainfall data, ready rainfall data if obtained from the India Meteorological Department or some other agency, then fine, he can. People has developed model, go for that model, use that. Again, there is a particular minute time intensity. If he is not getting that kind of data, just receiving the daily rainfall data, what way he can do? So that is what basically the methods are. So these are the methods, these are the ways a person working on the research or working for the research has many or number of research methods used by the people, but are for their area, for their topic. One has to think while using those methods, one has to take a proper decision while deciding a method. Okay, so then here it is said that the chosen research method needs to be further detailed out, because researcher must also define the target population to collect data from and sampling strategy to be employed for choosing a sample from target population. So if the data has to be collected primarily, say for example, maybe you using the questionnaire. So if this is a problem, or this is aspect one need to understand or one has to study, he has to further detail out. So this is the area, then what way the sampling will be done, what will be the target population, from which sampling method will be adopted by the researcher to get that kind of data. So one has to be precise about the methods. Then the statistical techniques for analyzing the data also needs to be defined based on the research questions and data collected. Because many times, people while studying the statistics knows that these are the methods utilized for this thing. These are the methods to correlate these two aspects that one need to use the correlation technique. But what kind of data or what aspects or what factors the researcher want to correlate, you should go for that kind of technique, statistical technique to be used in his research. So it needs to be defined. and should be justifiable that this using this statistical technique, that enough data is there, it is in this format, and so this technique has been chosen for the analysis and to choose that statistical technique. Then the most again important aspect is about the data collection. So it should be a very careful, because your research planning is, again I will say, is the most important and crucial stage in the research. So while doing that, only if you think that what kind of data I need to procure, which are the feasible methods or the techniques by which I can collect the data, so then only the plan can be made, and accordingly carefully one can collect that data. Okay, so the careful data collection, then systematic use of rigorous methods, and the proper interpretation of the findings are essential aspects of the integrity. So in the beginning only what I said, that one should enjoy the research, and when one can enjoy the research, because these are not that tough or difficult things, only thing one has to be follow the things very wisely, that anyway I have to make this plan. While making that plan, one has to be very serious considering all these aspects. So while collecting data, one has to be careful that am I getting a proper data, or all things whether are coming in that data whatever I'm collecting. Then the systematic use of the rigorous methods. Why rigorous method? Because research again needs the validation in between to get the certain things. Though many times if the results are somehow varying than what logically I was saying, so one need to correlate that with other aspects. So rigorously it needs to be done. And then proper interpretation of the findings. So whatever analysis is done, then interpretation needs to be done very properly. And if that is done, then this is what the essential aspects of the research integrity we can say. Okay, so following appropriate data analytic procedures ensures confidence in the result and ability of other researchers to replicate and reproduce the results. Now the thing is, again, as I told in the beginning, that there are various definitions of the research. So research is basically to add something in the knowledge base. So if a researcher is adding in the knowledge base by these good academic research practices, the next researcher can go ahead of that research and can use that research, and he can replicate and reproduce the results. But when he can do, or it can be proper for him, so that the analytical procedures, appropriate data analytic procedures need to be followed by the researcher. So it gives the confidence to the next researcher to use that kind of research. So whatever a researcher is doing, again he has to give that addition to the knowledge base. Okay, so then how or what way it can be done? Again, the things are very simple. That is it important to keep it is important to keep the following questions in mind. First is about, is the choice of research technique defensible? For instance, supported by existing literature. Can I defend that research technique which I am using? Because as I was again telling, why USLE, why Morgan model, why process-based model, why this kind of model? Can I defend that? Why that technique is used? What way the things are considered in my topic, in my area? One must be able to defend those things. Then, is the selected method appropriate for the discipline and nature of the data? So is that method is appropriate? Because when we talk about this, is again the discipline of the research in which a researcher is working, and the nature of data, the data what he has collected. Does that method is appropriate? Because the certain methods may need different kind of inputs of the data, whereas the data collected may be of the different things. So one has to think whether it is appropriate. Then, are the selected methods appropriate for answering the research question? This is again the important thing, that in the research process, after finalizing or the framing research question, with that we have to frame the objectives. So are those serves the purpose is served to get our objectives whatever are defined? So that is what the appropriate. Is it appropriate for answering the research questions which are the research questions which are framed? Then, will the result obtained by selective methods be reproducible? So as I told, that if it is a good research added to knowledge base, can be reproducible. or do the selected methods lead to results that can be easily and uniformly interpreted? So does this method leads to the results that can be interpreted, or easily and uniformly interpreted? Can that kind of interpretation be done if I use this method and done a research on that? Okay, so this is what about basically the data research and methodology. So this was what I talked was our first topic again, where I am. So we are talking on the framework. First stage of it is research design, which covers the planning, research questions and documentation, literature review, and data research and methods analytical approach. Okay, so we finished. I finished this 4. Hope you must have understood. Okay, so then the planning, research, and all these aspects. Now the next is about the conduct of research. Now first is the research designing. The next is the conduct of research. Now we have to conduct a research, actual conduction of the research. Okay, so again there are the aspects in good research one need to consider are the research execution, documentation, and data storage. Okay, so then checks for plagiarism, falsification, fabrication, and misinterpretation, and then collaboration, authorship, and intellectual property. So conduct of research, basically if we come on, so first of it is the research execution, documentation, and data storage. Okay, so what is that? Okay, so how to execute the research, then documentation, how to make a documentation, and data storage. So robustness of the research results depends on thorough research execution, systematic documentation, and data quality. So when we say that this is a robust research, or the results are after the robust research, then it depends on the execution, the way the research has been executed, then what way it is documented, and what is the quality of the data. Okay, so careful collection of data is necessary not only for ensuring the quality of results, but also for maintaining records of the collection methodology. So again, for data collection, there are methodologies what way the data has been collected, which methods are followed in collecting the data. Okay, so then these records are essential for judging data quality and for ensuring that future researchers can replicate the results. Because if those results are of that quality, then only future researchers can use those results. Okay. The next is about the so about the data quality, and for ensuring the future researchers can he replicate the results. The most important for this validation or verification is basically the scholarly journals. Now, what are scholarly journals, and why one need to use those scholarly journals? Just a second. Excuse me. Okay, so scholarly journals facilitate in enhancing research integrity. They ask their authors to submit research data and make them available for other scholars to use, who can replicate and analyze and build upon earlier research without having to incur the cost of obtaining their own data. So if somebody has done a good research utilizing certain data, then scholarly journals many times ask authors to submit that data, and that data may be provided further to another researchers which can start their research there onwards. Okay, so there may be the maybe the depositories or maybe archives or what you can say the reports that those journals they provide that kind of data to the researcher. So then this data can be collected that way again So that is again the important thing. And if we have collected it carefully while doing our research, that may be given to those scholarly journals and can utilize or may utilize for the further research by the other researchers also. Okay. Now, so the data collection is the important aspect, what we call as a, careful data collection, what I was talking about. So what is that? Okay. So there is again checklist about the data. So what data were collected and when were they recorded? So if data from somebody is utilized, so what data were collected and when were they recorded? So what was the duration? What was the period? When we talk about the current data. So did the research involve an experiment? So again, does our research it involves an experiment? One need to consider. Then where the data collected at different levels of analysis. So there may be data collection at different levels. So while doing the research again, what I was telling about the verification or validation, so one may go again to the field, collect that data, even in case of the experiment also, so that data can be collected at different levels of the analysis, and that helps a lot. So where the data on the population or a subsample, so it is for how much volume of the population we can say. So it is either is it on the population or a subsample is taken for the research. So if a subset of the population was used, what were the sampling procedures? So if a person used a subset, so then what we call it as a sample. So what were the sampling procedures? Because those has to be, the proper scientific procedures, a result of which must justify the results for the entire population. Okay. So then was the sample set representative of the study population? So if that sample set which is taken is representative of the study population, okay, so is the representation from each class of the population is taken or not? It means that then did the study design match the purpose, for instance, theory development or theory testing? So whatever design or the research design was there for for the research, does it match the purpose for the theory development or maybe for the theory testing? So how was the data integrity ensured? Now in case of data integrity, we have seen in earlier thing that what we call as the data integrity and what are the aspects of that one need to consider. Are those considered while collecting the data? Then was the data cleansing process properly documented? So while cleansing the data, again there are the procedures one needs to follow that and has to be documented, because why this redundant data or excess data might be removed or might be deleted, or then it might have used certain values for the missing data. So what are the procedures used? Is that documented? Is again an important aspect. And then what were the specific rules using the defining, identifying and handling outliers? So outliers are basically when we plot that data, the scatter, if it is observed, there may be certain outliers. Those are called as outliers, you must be knowing. So what are these rules used for defining and identifying, or how those outliers are handled? Because it may hamper the other results also. So where data transformation satisfactorily documented and justified. So whatever data transformation is done, is it satisfactorily documented and justified? So that transformation is from one aspect to another aspect, maybe from one for using the another technique, the way the data is transferred, transformation is done. Is it documented or is it justified properly? Okay. So then where the inferences from the data verified and validated, which I was again saying before also, whatever inferences are drawn, are those verified and validated? Then where the computational procedures and platforms properly documented, what way the computations is done and what procedures are followed, and which platforms are used for the computation, Are those documented properly? And where sufficient metadata and annotations added in the data files to ensure meaningful interpretations. So where data privacy issues efficiently addressed. Again, these are the issues of the data privacy, that if somebody is using the data of some person, they have some data privacy related things. Then if is it utilized, say for example, if I'm using that kind of data by getting the permission, and if it's published, if somebody else again is want to use that kind of issues may arise. So those needs to be efficiently addressed. Okay, so this is about the things about the data collection. Okay, so though the bullets are so many, but if you see or if you read carefully, these are again a very simple things, that what data we are using, are we following these things? If yes, you are doing a good result or good academic practice in doing the research. Okay, so these are the things one need to consider. The next is about the checks for plagiarism, falsification, fabrication, and misinterpretation. Now, these are again the terms used. You must have gone through this, that fabrication is nothing but the making of data or result to fabricate the thing. Then falsification is the manipulating research material, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record. Okay, so to manipulate the research materials, what we can say, or maybe the method or equipment or the processes, or changing or omitting data such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record. So even the things are done properly, the data is collected, but maybe while winding up at the end stage, many times this may happen, maybe by mistake, non-intentionally, that the certain data may get omitted, or maybe the false things may be given about the material or the processes, and so it may not be accurately represented in the research record many a times, and that is what the falsification is. So one must be focused and take care of all these things, that is the falsification. And then plagiarism. So plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit to him. Now, I don't understand what is wrong in giving credit to somebody. So again, this is the Office of the Research Integrity reference. At the end, the reference is given. As per this, the definition is the appropriation of another person's idea, processes, results, or words without giving credit to him, the person or institution or whatever, is nothing but plagiarism is. So knowingly, intentionally, or recklessly departing from standard practice can be ground for allegations of misconduct, and that is what the misconduct in the research. So one has to be very careful about the proper conduct of the research while doing the research, and needs to consider all these aspects. So there are several ways in which researchers knowingly, intentionally, or recklessly misinterpret their data and finding. So many times that researcher may misinterpret that data, and several ways are there to misinterpret that data. Of course, maybe the intentions are maybe different, but this is again, these are the facts or the threats what are even mentioned in those guidelines. So one must avoid all these things. Now, how to check the plagiarism? Now, forget about the intention. Many times, if the researcher is doing it unintentionally, but it may come in the research. So how to avoid that? So the types of plagiarism that you must have even gone through the lecture on plagiarism also. But it is one just to brief it, the copying takes from another author without appropriate permission or attribution and acknowledgement is nothing but the plagiarism. So this is the first thing. So nowadays, what is happening, if the data, the soft material is available, people just take that data, one can copy that data and paste it somewhere, and that is what the copying takes from another author without appropriate permission or attribution. So one has to take a permission for that. Then copying someone else's research ideas also. So this is again the idea as far as the intellectual property is concerned, very important aspect, that people even copy those also, that somebody's researcher's ideas, and so that is what comes under the plagiarism. And then redoing other research, other people's research, and representing it as own research without referring to the original work. So many times people refer somebody else's work, and without referring him, publish it at his own work. So one must avoid this thing, and that comes under the plagiarism, and this is the way the plagiarism can happen. Okay, so then as per the Harkov again, the basic practices should be observed while doing the research. In general, a person using another author's text, data, methods, ideas, result, or formulation should identify the author and document the source. So it is a good practice. If you got some text from somebody, while copying that text, immediately below that or after that, one can write, identify the author and document the source. If author is given there, then fine. Or one can identify even, and then the document the source from where he got that this is the author or he is the author. This is the first thing. Then second, all intellectual property, regardless of format, should be appropriately attributed to the original owner. So it is his intellectual property who has done work on that must be attributed to him, I mean to the original owner. So researchers should neither submit previous published results without proper attribution, nor submit the same manuscript to multiple journals simultaneously. Now here, in case of our own, that he should not submit the same manuscript multiple journals simultaneously. So even while making the manuscript, if I am the author, I should not submit the same manuscript to the another journal. Okay. Then conference presentations may be regarded as published material and cited appropriately. Even the things are presented in the conferences, but while using that material, that also should be cited, that these are the things obtained from this, maybe conference proceeding or maybe presented in the conference, and as per that we are seeing. Then references to unpublished work of other authors should be identified as personal communication or directly attributed to the author as an unpublished source. So references to unpublished work of other authors should be identified as a personal communication or directly attributed to the author as an unpublished source. So one can give that as an unpublished work, giving the name of that person. So yes, I got this from this person, this material, but which is unpublished, but it is owned by him. So that is unpublished work by that person. So then reviewers must be particularly careful in ensuring that the material under review is treated as confidential until it has been published. Now these are again, this is about the research practices at an large. So one who are reviewing the research articles or research papers, so if it has come for the review, he should keep the things as a confidential until it has been published. Okay, so it is somebody's property which is there for him to review, so he must keep those as a confidential. So using parts or ideas from material under review without proper attribution is not only plagiarism, but it is intellectual theft. Okay, so that is called as intellectual theft. Marathit त्याला वाङ्मय चौर्य असं म्हणतात. So that is again intellectual theft, that the person has taken somebody's intellectual property. So, and it may place the entire evaluation system at a risk. So it is common for researcher to refer his or her earlier research. Again, when citing one's own work, it is usually best to treat it in the same way. So even if I am using my work, or if you are using your work while doing the research, so it is common, and it is very common that if you are working on the same field, so again, when citing that work, it is usually best to treat it in the same way as if it was one was citing to another scholar's works. So the way we treat the other scholar's work, we must treat our own work also while citing, and needs to take those precautions. Okay, otherwise this is the term used as a self-plagiarism. So self-plagiarism is, I have published already somewhere, and now I'm taking material from that part, and without citing the thing I'm giving that part, then it will come as a self-plagiarism. Okay, so this is it's 4:11. Okay, so briefly I'll go to then another next aspect is about the collaboration and authorship. So this is again about not only about the PhD research, but in general research practices. So what are the collaborations? So research is a teamwork, and you people are again in the uh, in the academic institutions, so must be working on the research projects or can apply for the research projects from various agencies. So what is collaboration basically? So the collaboration are basically to focus either on the need based what we can say the projects. First thing, if the agency approaches that they want to work on certain kind of the aspects, then that is what to collaborate with that. Or if the collaboration may be from the different people from the different field, if they want to work on certain aspect, so that way the collaboration can be done. So the collaboration again is a is a part which is motivated for the research. So the goal of the proper and anticipated for outcomes, the collaboration is necessary, or collaboration can be done. Then the role of each partner in collaboration will play, how data will okay the role of each partner in the collaboration will play, how data will collected, stored, and shared. So again, then this has to be decided properly, that how the data will be collected, it will stored and then shared. Then how changes in the research design will be made, how will be responsible for draft, who will be responsible for drafting and publication. If the research is in collaboration, say in between 2 or 3 persons, then these are the basically responsibilities needs to be divided and maybe documented, that for drafting publication who will be responsible. Then the criteria that will use to identify and rank contributing authors. And this is again the another thing, that what way the to identify the rank to identify and rank the contributing authors. So you must have gone through again that API guidelines, that there is always a conflict, that if there are 2 authors, this much percentage be given to the first author, then that much is to the second author. If there are more than 2, what way it can be done. But here in collaborative project, then again, the person who worked on what topic can elaborate on that part. So that rank has to be properly, that way should be given. Okay. So then who will be responsible for submitting reports and meeting other requirements? So while if somebody is applying for the research or working on the project, so who will responsible for submitting reports and meeting the requirements? Then who will responsible for or have the authority to speak publicity for the collaboration? How intellectual property rights and ownership issues will be resolved? Because again, this may be a problem if it applied for certain kind of copyright or maybe patent. So how those ownership issues will be resolved, and then how the collaboration can be changed and when it comes to an end. So what way that collaboration can be changed. So these are the aspects one need to consider while making the collaboration. Okay. So then about the authorship, basically, these are the points about the authorship. So you must have heard about the word, the corresponding author in publication and those things. So this authorship is about the research project. This authorship is about the writing of research report. This authorship is about the publicity, what we have seen, that who will work on that publicity, will take responsibility of that, and what way the authorship will be distributed. While that is will come little later, that is dissemination of the data. So while disseminating that data. So intellectual property right, again, you must have heard about or maybe known about the patent, trademark, copyright, and the other forms of the guarantees when we talk about. So this is it is basically yields the intellectual property a significant commercial value. So that research, when it comes to that commercial value, and then the proper assignment of intellectual property and preservation of these rights takes an additional importance because of the associated economic value. Then assigning intellectual property right to the extent possible to the stakeholders at the start of the project is good research practice. So it is better to assign those things in the beginning only. So that becomes easier again. Okay. So then can I have 10 more minutes? No? Double sir?
Yes, sir. No problem. Continue.
Okay. Thank you. So that is what the intellectual property right is. And the last part of the good research basically is research dissemination. Now, what is research dissemination? Whatever work is done by a researcher should come to, as I'm seeing again, it is a addition to the knowledge base. So that the purpose of addition to the knowledge base is the person who is again going to work on some kind of research should utilize that knowledge base or should get updated knowledge because of his research contribution. So it must come to the society, it must come to the research community, and that is what the comes by the either by the way of publication. And in case of publication, then again these are the aspects of one needs to consider very briefly. I'll go through it. The first is the selection of right medium for publication, because right medium of publications are basically those findings are impactful only when publicity shared and communicated. Okay, then only the research can become an impactful. So researcher can earn their property rights, that one can say that these are my property rights because those are published or maybe given. So the primary purpose of dissemination is to inform larger community about the finding of that research activity, and the purpose is that for, as I told, is become a part of scientific knowledge base for other scientists to replicate, test, challenge, or and build upon. Okay, so research findings are of interest to others also, such as practitioners, policy or decision makers, and to public. So in significance and relevance, many times we write that this research will be used for the policy makers and decision makers and all. So it should go up to those people. So that is what the dissemination of the data. So best way of dissemination is basically the journals. So in the journals again, peer-reviewed journals are among the key channels for research dissemination, because it goes through the procedure of the review and helps in improving the research quality. Okay, so then, but researcher often many times wants to reach a broader audience beyond their academic peers. That this is my research is for the societal use, and I want to go to take that research to the society. So many times people may write a blogs or popular press or maybe the practitioner journal focusing on outlets. So that is also the another way of dissemination, and to reach the intended audience who are interested to know those research. Then one more thing is about the predatory journals. Basically, predatory journals and publishers are those who are entitled that prioritize self-interest at the expense of scholarship and are characterized by false or misleading information, deviation from best editorial and publication practices, a lack of transparency, and or use of aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practices. So one must avoid these predatory journals for the dissemination of this data. And now then these are the characteristics of predatory journals. How do we know? So first is guaranteed acceptance of manuscript upon your submission. So whatever manuscript you give, you will get an acceptance and the journal will publish. There no peer review process, even though it is written on the journal. So you don't have that process. Then pay and publish. Many journals, they may ask you that pay this much amount and they will publish your paper. So those are again irrespective of quality manuscript or relevance to the journal scope. So journal, maybe no journal website, no clarity of aims and scopes of the journal, misleading and inaccurate self-guaranteed impact factor, and then no editorial board, and over quality content, and all these are the characteristics of predatory journals. So try to avoid publishing in such journals. So then how to choose a right journal for publication. So do the aim and scope of the journal match that of the research? So what aim and scope that journal has, does it match the research what we have done or you have done? So has the journal published article of similar nature? Because there are particular journals specifically publishing that kind of papers or the review articles. Then what is the journal peer review process? So one can understand what way they do this review process. And does the journal reach the relevant audience? So if it reaches to the relevant audience, so one need to choose the journal by using this method. Okay, and then next is about the translation of the research. This is, as in the beginning what I told while about the research methods, that it is to translate it into application to the benefit of the humanity. So the public dissemination of the knowledge and product developed by researcher result in increased outreach and hence more attention to the science. So the knowledge has the power to enhance quality of life and impart positive social impact to the beneficiaries. So technology transfer is important. So if the research dissemination is happening at that way, the or expected to happen that way, and that is what are the good academic researchers which are having the integrity. And then to ensuring the efficient transfer of academic research findings to real life applications are basically, so what are the what we call is, as you know, trust areas, or people maybe use the word the hot topics, or what things we one need to choose. So first is focus on the research that is aimed at real world problem. So if the researcher is focusing on the real world problem, immediately or very soon it may go up to the society, or that way it can be transferred, the results can be transferred, or whatever, if the measures are given, can be transferred. Then experimental tools and techniques that are time saving and expensive without jeopardizing rigor or high quality. So if there are the experimental tools or techniques that are developed which can be used by using a smaller kind of data, use easily and can come up to the results, if are come up, can that is what the technology transfer is, the way it can go. Okay. Then use of widely available material and components visible on large scale and pose minimum hazard to life and environment to aid manufacturing. So for aid manufacturing, that available material and components, those are the things basically are important. That is again the transfer process, we can say. And then maintenance of complete records of all experimentation, surveys, and so on, so that technologies can be reliably and efficiently scaled up. So these are about basically the technologies transferred to scale up, but in research practices the things needs to be understand. And at the end I will just show you, these are basically the guidelines of the good academic practices. You may go through it. These are by the University Grant Commissions, then National Health and Medical Council, European Federation, and these are certain guidelines which focuses more on the good quality academic research as far as the academic research is concerned. And these are the references, which I quoted in my text and which I have gone through. Okay, only thing I just okay, fine. So that's all. Thank you. Anything to discuss?
Yes.
Session is open for asking question. Participant, if you will have any question, then you can ask.
Sir, may I ask a question?
Yes, yes, ma'am, please.
Does analytical research mean use of statistical methods or any statistical formula? If we have any table and if we interpret that, does it come under analytical research?
Yeah, whatever analysis you do is analytical research basically. But not I mean, just if you get ready data available from somewhere, and if you are interpreting, that is not the analytical. So one has to do some analysis on the data whatever you get.
So
Following the
analysis
method.
means some statistical methods we need to apply.
Yes.
Any other participants, please ask question.
It seems either it's understood to all or
Yeah, always, sir, you have explained very well manner. So I think that there will no any question.
Okay.
Question.
Thank you. Hope so that it must have gone good for good research.
Yes, yes, sir.
So definitely.
Only I'll
Well,
just
sir.
show you that manual. Manual I'll just show. Okay. हे माझं स्क्रीनचं प्रेझेंटेशन शिवाय पण दिसतंय का तुम्हाला की यू आर जस्ट सीइंग द प्रेझेंटेशन ओनली आय मीन आई जस्ट शेअर विंडो और एंटायर स्क्रीन
नाही विंडो नाही एंटायर स्क्रीन दिसतंय सर तुमचं म्हणजे नॉर्मल आपल्या पॉवर पॉईंटच्या ह्याच्यावर दिसते.
नाही पॉवर पॉईंट दिसतंय ना तुम्हाला आता हा
हो,
म्हणजे
yes.
मी फक्त स्क्रीन शेअर केली एकच
हो,
मिनिट मी
screen.
फक्त हे बुक दाखवतो तुम्हाला ज्या if somebody is interested can दिसतंय
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the book basically what I use. That is the guidance document, good academic research practices. It is by the published by the University Grant Commission in September 2020. So it is available on the university UGC website. You can go through that book. Okay, and these are the this is the way it can be cited. So by Patwardhan. So all these whatever I talked today in detail, the things are given in this book. So you can go through this book for detail. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes. Mule sir, continue.
Yes, sir. For formal vote of thanks, I request to Devdas Sonone, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Devi Sonone. Deem it a great honor and privilege to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Devre sir for having fruitful discussion on topic good academic research and practices. Sir has deliberately talked about different values in research, which will help us to maintain research integrity. Sir has also guided us how to plan research and how to prepare framework of research, how to execute the plan. Sir, whatever deliberation held here, it will definitely help us in our future journey. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
would like to thanks to honorable principal of the college, then coordinator and joint coordinator of the coursework, and all the participants for the patience listening. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir.
Value.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.